All right, the Raiders 24, the Sharks 20. Thrilling match, pulsating first half, 3 tries apiece, and then a really good defensive effort in the second half until that last-minute miracle try to Seb Chris. So the Raiders 3-2, the Sharks 2-3. Such an important game when it comes to the context of the season. Top 4, top 8. Panthers 18, Cowboys 22. Penrith, we have a problem. And you've got to work out which one is it. Or is it a combination of them all? Player depth? Injuries, confidence dented, player fatigue, Vegas, no home ground. We always said if you're a little bit off in the National Rugby League, then you lose. And that's exactly what's happening to the Panthers this week. They've got a massive game against the Dolphins on Thursday night. You'll hear that on SEN. The Cowboys, back-to-back wins. This one away. So all the noise around Todd Payten, gone. Like that. Kaiser Soze. Rabbitohs 20. Roosters 14, another incredible chapter in the book of feuds. The Roosters were dominant throughout. The injuries had hit the Bunnies. You'd hate to have Jamie Humphries as your halfback in your Supercoach side. I know that. Don't worry, he was upgraded overnight from 1 point to 2 points. But anyway, we've got an update on his hamstring injury. Cody Walker, Michaela Ravalawa. So they are 2 to 3 weeks, 3 to 4 weeks, and 5 to 6 weeks, respectively. Those guys, we just heard news from the Rabbitohs on that one. But they found a way, and the Roosters are going to rue that loss. To make the 8, you must win those games unless you can finish like a train, and I'm looking at you, Sammy Walker and Brandon Smith. But 2 words coming out of that game on Friday night, Maestro, Trell Mitt. Trell Mitt. I love the comment from Andrew Johns. There's only a couple of people on the planet that would attempt that pass. It was the triple cutout. Did it go forward? I can excuse that one. He goes over the top of the outstretched hand of Dom Young. Dom Young 6'6". And it just lands perfectly for Isaiah Tass to score the winning try. So, absolutely. And then, of course, he kicks the goal from the sideline. So, and it's not the only reason they won, but he's a big reason why they won. The Eels 23, the Dragons 22. Another 12-point lead in the second half, and the Dragons can't get it done. Well, I only saw the highlights of this one, but again, you want to create for the Dragons, your name has to be Clint Gutherson. Well, that's what it seems like. So he's the one creating for the team. Isaiah Yongi announces himself as a player of the future with the Parramatta Eels, and then Zach Lomax steps up against his old club. And after all that, well done, Parramatta. Well done, Jason Riles, getting your first win of the year. You're still last, Parramatta. So just putting some reality back in there as well. Titans 10, Dolphins 36. Disappointing performance for the home side in this one. And we will, well done, Christian Wolf. So he gets his first win in the National Rugby League. Controversy out of this game. We'll hear from Des Hasler a little bit later on. The Broncos 46, the Tigers 24. This was the least convincing 22-point victory in the history of the sport. 3 minutes before halftime, the Tigers led 3 tries to 1. At halftime, they were down 14-12. Work that out. How does that work? Anyway, it did. And then a bit of Reynolds magic and Hunt calmness and kicking, and they got them home on the back of what was an underwhelming performance, and yet they scored 46, which means their best is going to be really, really hard to beat. But they weren't at their best against the Tigers, and the Tigers didn't deserve to lose that game by 22. They were at different stages really dominant against the Broncos at Suncorp, and yet they come away with a 22-point loss. Seagulls 24, Storm 48. What a disappointment to the number of Manly fans who listen to this program and, I can't hear anything. But anyway, we'll wait and see. He's back, wasn't he, Jerome Hughes? When you saw that he was in the side, you went, I think this can have an impact. And then you went, he is superb. That's right. He's the Dally M winner, isn't he? And look what he's done for the likes of Harry Grant and Ryan Pappenhausen and Cam Munster. And Grant Anderson scores 3 tries. Oh, wow. That Jerome Hughes, he's quite a player, isn't he? Absolutely incredible. And to see him, what was that, 2 weeks after the broken hand? At one stage, he was getting up to play the ball and he couldn't put his hand down on the ground properly. So he just put the weight on a different... I'm like, look at you. And Craig Bellamy played credit to his toughness in the post-match press conference. Bulldogs 20, Knights 0, 2-0 at halftime. This wasn't a nomination for Game of the Year, all right? Just to let you know, it wasn't the most dominant victory. Wasn't dazzling in any way, shape or form. And in many ways, that sums up the Doggies now, doesn't it? In the absence of Burton and Kickow, they're winning and they just find a way to win. Not as impressive as they were against Cronulla the week before, but I want to have a look at this stat line for Kalen Ponga. And one of the great things about Craig Bellamy over the years, think Jason Taumalolo in his record against Melbourne, and think Tom Trbojevic in 2021 in that semi-final when Bellamy found a way to shut him down. Think about what Cameron Ciraldo did and learn about it via the Kalen Ponga stat line. Now, Kalen Ponga, we were talking about it yesterday. We know he's so dominant for Newcastle, maybe overly dominant, but if you can shut him down, I think you shut down Newcastle. Kalen Ponga's stat line from yesterday, 22 runs, so high involvement. 97 metres. He's doing less than 5 metres a run. 23 post-contact metres, 1 line break assist, and he got 2 tackle breaks. No try assists, no line breaks, no tries. At halftime in the game against the Dolphins in round 2, he had 3 line break assists and 3 try assists. Stop Kalen, stop Newcastle. They are limited, the Doggies. But what they've got and who they've got, they absolutely punch above their weight. So there it was, rearview mirror, round 5 of the National Rugby League. Give us your take on that. Now let's get to Des Hasler. And I called it not a crackdown. And because otherwise people in the media, those media types, they go over the top with things. They look to, maybe hyper-inflate what's been talked about. So we'll speak to Lewis Shepherd about this as well. But I called it an application of the rules. Here's what Des Hasler called it after the match on Saturday.
Now, this is in no ways a whinge, so don't take it the wrong way. We were well beaten tonight. The first 10 minutes, and it happened to Tino tonight, and I feel for any other side that it might happen to. Like, people pay good money to come and see a game of footy. I just think it just interferes with the integrity of what the game's about.
People pay good money to come and watch the matches. Do you believe that's Des' first concern around that? It's not, but people use it all the time. Do you realise there's more people going to turn up to the game on Good Friday, reportedly, than any other premiership match in the history of the competition? And yet we trot out people pay good money to come and watch the game. And so it's not having that much of an effect in these difficult times. But anyway, is it a concern for the league? I think they made it a concern. Like application of the laws. They got it wrong in round 4 so many times. What did they do? They took Chris Butler out of rotation. He got it wrong significantly with one of them. And if you have better referees in there, and without being too disrespectful to Chris, that's what we got this week. You get better referees in there. So we've talked often in here about the bunker and consistency and using less people and therefore automatically finding greater consistency. Surely the same could be used for referees. Surely it's a specialist position now. We've got Ashley Klein and Grant Atkins and everyone else Jared Sutton. They're all doing both jobs. They're separate jobs. They're different jobs. They're the application of the laws in different ways. And will this then take away all the concern around those players who have or haven't been sent to the sin bin and then later suspended, let off with a fine or not charged at all? No, because there's so much grey in this game and there's so much going on for referees and the difficulties they have around adjudicating on everything. And then they're doing it with someone in the box that they haven't got that relationship with, and it all breaks down. To the point where we're getting record crowds and record numbers on TV. That's how much it's breaking down. Be careful of the hysteria, everyone. Be careful of the self-interest that's at play here. It's not that big a deal. The deal is, missed a few round 4, let's make sure we get them round 5. Round 1300 01 1170. 0457 736 736. Adam Reynolds has revealed on Brisbane radio that if he has to play on and if he has to play somewhere else, he'll do it. Here he is.
Look after this year first. I've still got a job to do here, so that'll sort itself out in the future. No, look, I'm enjoying myself. I still feel like I've got a lot to give, and I've still got a big job to do this year, so I'm not even worried about next year at the moment. Worried about obviously getting my body right for next week and, doing my part for the team and trying to, put us in a good position.
Turns 35 in July. If you'd watched him play on Saturday night, you'd go, oh, right, he's at the peak of his powers. The hamstring twinge, that's an issue because there has been the consideration around injuries, especially last year. But when you start thinking about, well, Reece Walsh and Pat Carrigan and Ezra Mam, they're up to about $3 million between them. And then you've got Katoni Staggs and Payne Haas and Selwyn Cobbo coming off contract and everyone else. And then you throw in Adam Reynolds into the mix as well. And if we look at the Dylan Brown index, it's just what Adam gets paid is just off the charts. So he's a 35-year-old, soon will be, 35-year-old halfback that can direct a side around the field comfortably. Refer earlier, Jerome Hughes, Melbourne Storm. I can just think of the value that he brings to his team or any other team. So the difficulty for Michael Maguire is this week for the game against the Roosters on Friday night, short turnaround, and he may not have his halfback. Who's he going to select? Oh, look, there's Ben Hunt. What a delight. Who's going to play 5'8"? Oh, guess what? Billy Walters can do that as well. Thanks for watching. For more great content, subscribe to SEN League, your home of the greatest game of all.